I have been with my husband for 10 years, married for 3, but somewhere along the way, I lost the love I once had for him. It didn't happen overnight, it was a slow process, one that I didn't fully recognize at first. But now, I know for sure that I don't feel the same anymore. Every time I look at him, I don't see the man I once loved. I see all the bad memories, the hurtful words, and the moments when I felt completely alone, even while being married. The truth is, our relationship has been full of pain. There was abuse, something I tried to ignore, excuse, or even convince myself wasn't as bad as it seemed. But the weight of those experiences never left me. It sat inside me, growing heavier with time, making it impossible to love him like I used to. I kept hoping that things would change, that he would finally see how much he was hurting me, but that moment never came. Instead, I became more and more detached, distancing myself emotionally as a way to protect what little I had left of myself. In December, I finally told him the truth. I wasn't in love with him anymore, and I wanted to separate. Saying it out loud felt both terrifying and freeing. I expected anger, maybe even resistance, and I wasn't wrong. He immediately pushed back, telling me that we had to make it work for the sake of our child. But I knew deep down that it was too late. How could I fix something when I felt nothing but emptiness toward him? Despite my honesty, he still refused to acknowledge the damage he had done. He didn't ask what went wrong or how I felt. He just clung to the idea of keeping things together, even if I was miserable. And the worst part? A small part of me felt guilty. Not because I wanted to stay, but because I didn't want to destroy my child's sense of stability. I knew leaving would change everything, but I also knew that staying in an unhappy marriage would only teach my child that love is supposed to feel this way, painful, lonely, and forced. Even after that conversation, nothing changed. If anything, things got worse. He still treated me like I was nothing, like my feelings didn't matter. I could barely get his attention, and when I did, it was only to be met with insults and emotional neglect. It became clearer than ever that I couldn't live like this anymore. I needed out. But the question wasn't just whether I wanted to leave, it was how I was going to do it. He wasn't just going to let me walk away, and I wasn't financially independent. I felt trapped, suffocated by a life that no longer felt like my own. And deep inside, I knew that if I didn't find a way out soon, I would lose myself completely. When I told my husband that I wanted to separate, I expected resistance, but I wasn't fully prepared for how manipulative he would become. At first, he acted like he didn't take me seriously. He brushed it off, as if I was just going through a phase or saying things I didn't mean. But I meant every word. I wasn't in love with him anymore, and I didn't see a future for us. As reality started to sink in for him, his response shifted. He didn't try to have a real conversation about why I felt this way or how we could part ways peacefully. Instead, he used guilt. He kept bringing up our child, telling me that leaving would destroy our family. He said that I was being selfish, that I wasn't thinking about the long-term effects this would have. But wasn't staying in a loveless, toxic marriage just as damaging, if not more? Then, he took it even further. He told me that if I left him, he wouldn't be able to handle it. He said he would be suicidal. That broke me. No matter how much pain he had caused me, I never wanted him to hurt himself. I didn't want our child to grow up without a father. The weight of his words made me pause. What if something happened to him because of me? Could I live with that guilt? He knew exactly what to say to make me second-guess everything. But at the same time, I couldn't ignore reality. He hadn't changed. He still treated me like I was nothing, acting as if my emotions didn't matter. He constantly put me down, calling me names and making me feel worthless. I could barely get his attention unless he was yelling at me. And when I did confront him about his behavior, he always had an excuse. He was tired. He was stressed. He was overwhelmed. There was always some reason why he couldn't be a better husband, why he couldn't treat me with basic kindness and respect. One of the worst moments was when I told him how much I needed his attention, not just for me, but for our child. He barely looked up from his video games before snapping at me. "What, you want me to sacrifice my time to hang out with you guys?" His words hit me like a slap in the face. I wasn't asking for anything unreasonable. I was asking for basic involvement, for him to care about us. And his response told me everything I needed to know. That night, I finally accepted the truth: he didn't care. He didn't care about my feelings, my happiness, or even our child's well-being in the way that a father should. And yet, he still didn't want me to leave. He wanted to keep me trapped, not because he loved me, but because he didn't want to lose control. I realized then that if I was ever going to be free, I had to stop letting his words control me. But that was easier said than done. After feeling neglected and unloved for so long, I reached a breaking point. I didn't want to feel invisible anymore. I didn't want to be in a relationship where I had to beg for attention, where my feelings were dismissed as if they didn't matter. Deep down, I already knew my marriage was over, I was just too afraid to take the final step. That's when I met someone else. It wasn't something I planned. I wasn't looking for an affair or trying to hurt my husband. But for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. I went on a date with another man, and my husband knew about it. Maybe he thought I wouldn't go through with it, but I did. And when he found out, he was shocked. He cried, telling me how hurt he was, how betrayed he felt. He made me feel guilty, but I couldn't bring myself to regret it. How could I? He had spent years making me feel worthless, and now he wanted to act like he cared? The man I met treated me completely differently. He actually listened when I talked. He complimented me, made me feel beautiful, desirable, things I hadn't felt in so long. I had forgotten what it was like to be wanted, to be appreciated. I didn't feel like a burden with him, I felt like a person again. One night, after yet another argument with my husband where he told me he didn't care if I left, I decided to go out. He had made it clear that I wasn't important to him, so why should I stay and feel miserable? I put our child to sleep, handed my husband the monitor, and told him I was leaving. That's when his true colors showed. He yelled at me, telling me I couldn't go. But I reminded him of what he had said earlier, that he didn't care about me. If he didn't care, then why did it matter what I did? I left without looking back. I texted the guy I had gone on a date with and asked, if I were to leave my house right now, where should I go? He responded quickly, excited to see me again. I met up with him, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel trapped. One thing led to another, and we had sex for the first time. It wasn't just about the physical connection, it was the way he made me feel. He made me feel wanted, adored, like I was someone worth loving. It was a feeling I hadn't experienced in years. My husband had spent so much time tearing me down, making me feel undesirable, telling me that no one else would ever love me. But this man? He saw me. He loved my body, my presence, my energy. And for the first time in so long, I felt good about myself. That night confirmed what I already knew, I didn't want to be with my husband anymore. But leaving was still easier said than done. Even though I knew my marriage was over, actually leaving was a completely different challenge. It wasn't as simple as just walking away. I was a stay-at-home mom, financially dependent on my husband for the past 3 years. Without my own source of income, I felt trapped. Where would I go? How would I support myself and my child? These questions ran through my mind constantly, making it harder to take the next step. One of the biggest complications was our house. We owned it together, which meant that even if I wanted to leave, I couldn't just pack up and disappear. There were legal and financial ties keeping me here, and I had no idea how to untangle them. If I left without figuring things out, I could lose everything. But staying in this house, staying with him, felt suffocating. I started looking for jobs, desperately trying to gain some independence. I knew that until I had my own income, I wouldn't have the freedom to leave. I spent hours searching online, applying for anything that seemed like a good fit. But after 3 years out of the workforce, it wasn't easy. Employers wanted experience, and I felt like I had lost a part of myself after years of being a stay-at-home mom with no financial control over my life. Meanwhile, my husband acted as if nothing had changed. He still ignored me, still played video games instead of spending time with our child, still dismissed my feelings as if they didn't matter. He acted like I wasn't even there, until I brought up leaving. Then, suddenly, he cared. Suddenly, he was making empty promises to change, but I knew better. I had heard it all before, and nothing ever changed. There were moments when I thought about just leaving, even if it meant starting over with nothing. But I had to think about my child. I needed stability for them, and that made things so much harder. If it were just me, I would have walked out that door without looking back. But I couldn't take my child into an unstable situation. I needed to do this the right way, to secure a job, find a place to live, and make sure I had enough money to take care of us both. The waiting was the hardest part. Every day that I stayed in that house, in that marriage, felt like I was suffocating a little more. But I had no choice, I had to be smart about this. I had to play the long game, even when it felt impossible. I wasn't staying because I wanted to. I was staying because I had to, for now. But deep down, I knew I wouldn't be stuck forever. I was going to find a way out, no matter how long it took. Even though I had accepted that my marriage was over, I still felt stuck. It wasn't just about the money, the house, or even finding a job, those were all real obstacles, but the hardest part was the emotional weight of it all. I wanted to leave, but my husband wouldn't let me. Every time I brought it up, he would either guilt-trip me, ignore me, or threaten to hurt himself. And no matter how much I wanted to move on, the thought of him actually doing something to himself made me hesitate. I knew he was manipulative, but what if this time he wasn't bluffing? What if leaving really pushed him over the edge? The idea of my child growing up without a father, of them one day asking me why their dad wasn't around anymore, haunted me. I didn't love him, but I didn't want him to suffer either. I just wanted to be free without feeling like I was destroying him in the process. But at the same time, I knew I couldn't live like this forever. Every day felt like I was just going through the motions, pretending everything was okay when, in reality, I felt completely numb. The more time passed, the more I realized that staying wasn't just hurting me, it was setting a terrible example for my child. What would they learn from this? That love meant tolerating neglect and abuse? That a relationship was something you had to endure rather than something that should bring you happiness? I didn't want that for them. I didn't want them to grow up watching me slowly lose myself in a loveless marriage. I had to show them that it was okay to walk away from something that wasn't good for you, even if it was scary. Still, I had no clear plan. I was trying to find a job, trying to figure out my options, but it all felt overwhelming. Some days, I felt strong, like I could make it out and finally start fresh. Other days, I felt completely powerless, like I was drowning in a situation I had no control over. The one thing that gave me hope was the realization that I deserved better. I had spent so many years being told that no one else would love me, that I wasn't good enough, that I should just accept the way things were. But now, I knew that wasn't true. I had experienced what it was like to be treated with kindness and respect, even if only briefly. And once I had that taste of what love was supposed to feel like, I couldn't go back to pretending that this marriage was enough. I didn't have all the answers, but I knew one thing for sure: I wasn't going to stay trapped forever. I was going to find a way out, no matter what it took.